should you be using a draw bias driver in 2023? That's what we're going to take a look at in this video. And we're going to do a bit of a test where we look at 3 different models set up in different ways and see what the differences are between them. Now, I've been lucky enough to have tested quite a few of the new models that have come out this year and been really impressed by, I'd say, by the draw bias drivers just offering me what I felt like was a good amount of control. So I wanted to see what that translates to up against a driver that was set up correct for me with a neutral ball flight. So I've got 3 different drivers from 3 different brands. The first is TaylorMade. This is the Stealth 2 Plus. This is a driver that's very much right for me. So the weight is bang in the middle of the head and it should offer me a fairly neutral ball flight. So I'm going to firstly hit a few shots. I'm going to hit 5 shots with this and see what the results are. And then I'm going to hit 2 draw bias drivers that I've set up in their sort of max draw setting. The first is the Cobra Aerojet Max. This has the weight, the heavier weight in the heel to promote that extra bit of draw bias. And the second one is the Ping G430 SFT. And I've got the weight that's in the movable track here in the draw plus setting. So it's in its most draw bias setting. So I'm going to hit a few shots, 5 shots with each driver, with each of these different setups and see exactly what the differences are. Okay, so I'm going to start with the TaylorMade. It's worth saying that all the drivers are set to 9 degrees. They've all got 65 gram shafts in. This one is an X Flex, the other 2 are S Flexes. The Ping shaft is slightly shorter, so I'm going to grip slightly down on the TaylorMade and the Cobra and maybe slightly up on the Ping to help even things out. So there are a few discrepancies, so it's worth taking the data with a pinch of salt, but let's get going, hit some shots and see what we find. Okay, so I hit some good shots, some not so good shots with the Stealth 2 Plus, but on the whole, pretty happy with how that performed. Let's go into the Cobra driver. And interesting, as soon as I put it down, it has a bigger footprint down behind the ball, looks more, I guess, slightly bigger, more generous to look down on, and it's definitely a little bit offset. So that face is looking a little closed to me down behind the ball at address, but I do like the finish of that sort of gray carbon crown. I think it looks great. Let's see how we get on. Okay, and now for the Ping G430 SFT, which in comparison to the Cobra driver feels like it sits a lot squarer, more neutral down behind the ball. I really like that. I like the idea that there's stuff at work within the head that's going to help me prevent from hitting it right, but I can't see it sort of pointing left down behind the ball. If you want something that sits square at address, but also want something that's going to fight a right, I think this does a good job of that. It's also a nice, generous footprint down behind the ball, quite big, bigger than the TaylorMade, similar to the Cobra. Let's give it a go. Okay, so let's take a look at the data. And I think it's worth saying that this is a fairly unscientific test. I'm a 3 handicapper, I'm not a robot, I'm not a professional golfer either. So you need to pair in some of that into mind, plus the differences in terms of the shaft. But there are some interesting trends that are worth looking at here. Now, the white shots were with the TaylorMade Stealth 2 Plus, and you can see the circle, the dispersion circle, is much further to the right. It's also a little bit tighter. It's a driver that I like, I feel like I'm in control of, and it's sort of, you can see it in the data there. Now, these are the average numbers for that TaylorMade Stealth 2 driver, which I'd say are all very good for me. So really pleased with the performance of that. So how did the other 2 compare? Well, you'll notice that with the Cobra driver, the spin jumps up from about 2,500 to 2,800. Again, that's something that I would expect. And you will notice I did hit a couple quite big lefts with the Cobra driver. Now, I think I'm capable of hitting quite big lefts with the TaylorMade Stealth 2 Plus, so let's not read too much into it, other than I do think though that with the Cobra, with the face sitting a little bit more offset and closed, I struggle a little bit with commitment to commit to it in exactly the same way as I would do, for instance, with a driver that sits nice and square down behind the ball. What did impress me about the Cobra driver is there's plenty of distance to be had with this. And I think the more I got used to it, the more I'd probably be able to benefit from that distance. And you'll notice I've hit a couple that are right at that center line, but no big rights. And interestingly, how far right would they have gone if I wasn't using a draw bias driver? We'll never know, but it's quite an interesting thing to think about. So moving on to the ping, you'll notice similar amounts of spin with the ping driver, similar in terms of launch, fantastic head and ball speed from the ping driver, and good overall distance, to be honest with you. A little bit more control for me with that ping driver. I just feel like because it sits where, again, I can commit to it in the way that I would with a driver that was perhaps a little bit better suited for me. And again, you'll see that tendency for the ball to finish sort of well left of the center line. Again, that one right there, how far right would that have gone? We'll never know. Interesting trends there. You can see that with both of the draw bias drivers, how my dispersion has kind of moved left down the range, exactly as you hope it would do. And I think for a lot of golfers who tend to hit drives a lot of the time over here, that ability to kind of bump it a little bit further left could be really helpful. So there you have it. That's my look at the two draw bias drivers, the Ping G430 SFT and the Cobra Aerojet Max. If I was to pick one of these two to put into play, it would be the Ping G430 SFT. I think it offers really good control as well as that bit of draw bias, which I think many golfers would benefit from. Having said that, I think if you are interested in a draw bias driver in 2023, whichever model you go for, I would thoroughly recommend a custom fitting, because that extra spin that I was getting might help you find a bit more yardage. The draw bias might help you hit a few more fairways and give you that confidence that you need to just swing the club a bit freer and a bit better to hit a few more fairways. It's an interesting one to think about. But that's it for now from King's Golf Studio. Please do like the video if you've enjoyed what you've seen. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.